You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Iron Lady sings that makes it official, welcome to the show. For over 16 years, we've been bringing the Chris Voss Show, nearly 2,200 episodes. We've been bringing you the most smartest people, damn it, in the world. And why aren't you sharing the show with your friends, neighbors, relatives? Don't make me come over there, folks. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet where you can find us, all that good stuff. Today we had an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff that she does, including the newest book that she had out in 2018 called Hope in a Dark Tunnel, Your Roadmap to Being... I'm sorry, let me cut that again. Hope in a Dark Tunnel, Your Roadmap to Well-Being When Navigating Chronic Illness by Bev Roberts. She'll be joining us on the show, and she's going to talk about some of the coaching and client work that she does. She emerged from burnout after an award-winning executive and consulting career. She found her passion in helping others to create and grow online businesses that they adore, intuitively build value, and attract their soul-aligned clients. I'm going to date them all, it sounds like. With a master's in business, Bev loves mentoring clients, enabling them to implement the consent-driven, heart-led business, marketing, and sales strategies they need to succeed, no matter what the marketplace does. Welcome to the show, Bev. How are you?
I'm great. So good to be with you today, Chris.
So good to be with you as well. Soul-aligned clients. This sounds like my soulmate. Is that what soul-aligned clients are?
So what they are is each of us has a natural affinity for different styles of people. And what we do is when we're aligned with the things that really light us up, the work that we do, we attract the people that are really wanting the work that we offer.
You definitely want to have those people, because if you have people that don't appreciate or value what you do, it doesn't make for a very good simpatico. So give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
So you can find me at bevroberts.com. Easy, same as my name. You can find me on Facebook and Insta at Bev Roberts Mentor. Easy to find handle too. And I love being on LinkedIn because obviously that's where my business background came from. So you can find me as under Bev Roberts there as well.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in your book?
So the book came about because I had been a high achiever all of my life, and suddenly I lost my cognitive function. I thought it was burnout, and I couldn't recall names of things. I had no ability to remember things. I just suddenly, out of the blue. And when I went to try and, understand what was going on for me, and the more that I try to research, because I'm a researcher by heart, I love to learn. So I'm always looking for new ways of doing things. And what I realized is there were no books in the marketplace at the time that would help a high achiever like me take back control from something that was controlling me. So if you've ever been unwell with a bad case of flu, double that, triple it. And that's how I felt on a daily basis. I couldn't even get off the bed. And I thought, this is not going to conquer me. Yeah. And the way that I wrote this book is I really felt I wanted to take all the practical things I was doing for myself and share them with people. And one of the things that was stopping me from writing this book is that my cognitive function wasn't there. So I couldn't sit and write things. Wow. So I thought, I'm going to get around this. And I used the word to text, speech to text options in Microsoft Word. And I just talked my book out, talked, did some light editing, got myself an editor, went to bestseller. And I loved the process, but it was a learning journey for me in the, getting that word out.
So you figured out a way to hack around the issues you were having and getting a book written, and sometimes it's easier to do that. It's easier to speak it and let somebody else edit it.
Yeah, worked for me.
Yeah, I wish I'd done that. Let's talk about some of the service. Let's talk about what influenced you when you grew up. Your bio, basically, in your words. How were you raised? What influenced you? What were some of the motivating factors and people that shaped you throughout your life that kind of got you to where you are today? When you help people?
I think in this sort of schooling environment, I didn't fit in because I was an innovator and I didn't really like to conform.
Mm-hmm.
So those early days of learning, whilst I loved the learning, I hated the structure. And so my first sort of foray into a career was to do something that I could learn and earn at the same time. So my background is actually in the medical world. I was a radiographer. But as soon as it became computerized, I realized for me that learning on a daily basis is my driver. And so I wanted to make a difference. And I thought, now, how do I do this? Started an undergraduate degree. And that's where the world of computers opened to me. But as soon as I got in that world, Chris, I realized that I'm a people person. I'm not a technologist. I use technology to make things faster, easier, automate things. And I was surrounded in that space by some incredible business mentors. So I worked for a small organization at first that were acquired by big organizations. I had the good opportunity of having my rise in my career really quickly. Because I was always willing to do what others weren't in that space, and realized that it's actually all business is related to relationships and how we connect with people, so our authenticity, the way that we show up every day, it matters. People want to be with people that they like.
Yeah. It's authenticity matters. Why is authenticity so important?
I think in a world now where you're not sure what's real anymore with the AI and things like that, authenticity counts more than ever because it builds trust and connection. And we buy from people that we like, trust, know, and connect with.
In your website, you have several different services you offer and you coach on, I guess. Tell us about some of those things that you have as offerings there.
Yeah, so what I realize is that not everybody has the good fortune to be in a business world like I was, where I had access to that sort of business mentoring, understanding how a business actually operated at the operational level, at the financial level, marketing, and all of those sort of things. So I offer what I would call mentoring for businesses, and usually online businesses. I have done a few bricks and mortar businesses, but my specialty is in online businesses and growing online businesses. And what we do is we start with the person's vision and really get clear on what is it they really want, what do they really want to do, and then we work at how they're going to get there and create all the elements for them that allows them to not have to be on social media all the time, because for a lot of us, it's pretty draining.
Yeah.
And so what are all the assets you need in your business? That's my mentoring arm of my business. And so that's usually 12 months because Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's true. Yeah,
so you need time. You need time to build that business. And then I also focus on teaching people how to get the right people into your inner circle, I call it, on your subscriber list. How do you get the right people in there who are a good fit for your business that are ready to, over time, purchase from you? So they may not be ready right at the beginning, but for me, the list growth that you have in your business is like the lifeblood, like cash flow is to your financial life flow, list growth is to your business growth. I offer services there around growing your list in different ways. One of the areas that I'm loving at the moment is quiz alchemy. So it's teaching people how to deeply understand their own audience in order to segment the content they share with them, as well as provide them with meaningful and valuable content to grow them through their own client journey. So it's sort of very bespoke. It helps you understand the audience as well as offer specific, so for example, my own quiz is called know and discover your client connection style, because we all have an inherent way that we show up and the way that we work with different people. And for example, one of them is a strategic architect. So the strategic architect is somebody who's much more left brain, very structured. And so a lot of their work is around systems, processes, and less about interacting with people. When they know that, they then realize where the areas they have a shortfall and where the areas that they have strengths, and then play to their strengths.
And so you help them navigate this. Why is it important to build a list? Why is it important? I mean, I think, some of us know what it is, but why is it important for anybody out there who's like, why do I really need a mailing list?
I would say you would never want to build your business on the rented land of social media. Your list is your asset. It's part of your whole business. And when you keep nurturing and connecting and providing value, they become your loyal fans and followers. So you can have somebody with a huge social media following, account gets hacked, in a day they've lost everything in their business.
Yeah. I've had that happen. We've lost hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, a lot of followers on Instagram. We got hacked by some Chinese thing somehow that got wormed into our account. And, it's a problem because you lose like all that access to your things. And when you build,
and that's why you have, Chris, you have the option for somebody to get a notification of your new podcasts.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why, because yes, you put it out on social media too, but your inner circle get that notification straight away. If they're interested, they can get straight into it.
Yeah. It's something where having your own control, having your own access, if I've had, like recently we had I run a big, huge dating group, and we had somebody who was on the sexual predator list for the state of Utah, and they had gained entry to the group. Someone found them out. Thankfully, we have a couple people in there that are in the police department, and so I had to make a post to our Facebook group to say, hey, if anybody came in contact with this person, by the way, he wasn't supposed to be in here according to his parole agent. He was a bad man, and so I put a link to the database for sexual abuse profiles for the state of Utah and said, if you need to search for anybody, in the future, here's where you go do it. And I mean, that's a link to the Utah state government database. Facebook, sent me a warning to my account saying that I was promoting spam and money-making opportunities by posting that. And I was just aghast.
Yeah. And so, for example, if you didn't have another way to connect with that group, and they closed your account, that's that whole part of your business gone.
Yeah. And I've actually had cut off to my groups because of some stuff, and that other people clearly posted. There was a post that Michael Moore from Michigan, who he did several movies. I reposted something he'd reposted, and it had been shared over 10,000 times, but I made a cut and copy of it and reposted it, and got suspended for that for I think 30 days or something. And I was like, I couldn't access my groups, I couldn't access the business on my profile, and it was something that wasn't, it had been shared 10,000 times by his followers, but for some reason, because I cut it on my own, I was suspended because I was sharing terrorists. It was pictures of the Taliban, I think, or something, taking over Afghanistan. And so I
think that's another point, Chris, is it depends on your subject matter and your content. But some people, for example, if it is, let's say, to do with dating or, whatever the subject matter is, and people don't feel comfortable to share in a public domain, if you don't have a list, how are you going to allow them to be vulnerable, and how you can talk of off topic, that's not allowed on social media. So it's better to build your list and to build it with, as I mentioned, the right people, because you need a way to attract the right people, but you also need a way to repel the people who are not your people, right? You don't need people clogging up your list that will never buy from you or are not interested in what you've got to share.
So should you kick those people off your list? When you profile them or something, or what do you do with those folks?
Yes. So what I do is, in terms of teaching about healthy and hygienic mailing lists, because a lean mailing list is a high-performing mailing list. So what you want is people on your list who open your emails, right? So what I do is go through a process every quarter of making sure all the people who are not bothering to open my emails, I export them so I could use them for ads, because they probably came for one reason, and then I just cull them out of the database, because that just keeps how the mail systems work is that the better your deliverability, the more they serve your mail domain. So it means that if you've got, let's say, for example, 1,000 subscribers, and you've only getting a 20% open rate, which in some industries is a norm, which I don't think is enough personally,
really?
but say 20% open rate. That means that you basically only got the 200 people opening. What about the others? Is it the way their email is set up? Are they not interested in watching? They're too lazy to unsubscribe? What is it? And that's, I think, where also what I work with is consent-driven marketing. So you don't just get people onto your list by buying lists, or if they happen to purchase something from you on your shop. What you do is you actually invite them to, do you want to receive information from me? Tick here if that's a purchase. If it's through, let's say, your dating group, is to offer them a free checklist or something like that, is how to spot a predator a mile away. And let them sign up for that. And then they join your mailing list. They know exactly what your mailing list is about because they've received that first offer. And they're not surprised when you start talking about things that are relevant to dating.
It's an interesting thing. And to have people, have Facebook threaten you. I've had friends that they've been on Facebook and they get their ad somehow pisses Facebook off, and so they'll get suspended on their ad account. And you're just like, holy crap, you can't make money now. You're big on the consent-driven marketing, and how do you usually map the online client journey with consent?
So what you want to know is you want to identify upfront, what are the touch points? Where are you going to be touching that particular individual who's in your, want them to join your mailing list? Because if you identify the touch points, so for example, they might follow you on social media, then they join your list, then they've downloaded the opt-in that you gave them, and all those sort of, what's the touch points? Once you know those, you then obviously are seeking permission at each stage. For example, if you developed another opt-in, you don't just send it to everybody. Even if they're on your list, you say, hey, if you'd like to get this new one, just click here and download it straight away. You're already a valued subscriber. Click here and download it. So you don't just sort of shunt stuff towards people. And then I use a lot of feedback loops. So, for example, surveys from time to time, because their feedback's going to help you refine and improve what you're offering, but also their journey. So they go, oh, I hadn't thought that I still need this, or what is it that I'm missing at the moment? And then personalize the interactions. That's why I love quizzes, and that's why I teach about defining quizzes and making really good quality quizzes, because if you design a quiz that's really going to segment your audience into, so for example, I'm not sure of the dating world myself, but I'm going to try give an example that's relevant. So for example, if I am, younger, newly, interested in finding my life partner, or I could be, post a breakup, post a loss of my partner. So those people need different information from you. So you could have a quiz that actually defines what stage of their life they're at, or their dating life that they're at. And then you provide them the information that they want. And then once you start to know that, you can monitor and adjust how you meet that client need. And that's what builds loyalty.
Yeah. Loyalty is what you want. You want loyal customers.
Correct.
people who love you and support you and want to be a part of your team, what you're doing. And now you have a thing on your website, some quiz and some insights that come from that quiz. How do you recommend leveraging the quiz, and tell people how they can onboard with that and interact with it?
Yeah, so when you have a quiz, what you're really doing is creating a very transparent form of communication. But what people also want to know as well is that they're going to get insights. So the way that I teach people to leverage those quiz insights responsibly is to protect people's data. For example, if I'm sharing with you that of all the people who've taken the client connection quiz, 40% are advocates, so those kind of things. So you'd normalize and neutralize the information. You wouldn't say these people with this personal demographic do this, so you'd make sure you protect their data. And then you use what you understand, like just with that example of dating, those different life stages of dating, you'd personalize that and create content specific to those people. And when you get people to sign up for your quiz, what you're wanting to do is take the minimum amount of information. You don't need somebody's surname. You just need a first name and an email address. So your email address is the unique identifier for the person. And then, very important in a consent-driven environment, is to ensure they can opt out when they have had enough. So you don't use your own personal email to send these things. You use what we call an autoresponder. And that means that, there's some governance around it. We also are all actually, if people don't know this, that there's the CAN-SPAM Act. And you are, as any provider, whether you provide services or products, you cannot just add people to your database. It's legislated that you can't do that. So we do it in a way that you've communicated the purpose clearly of them joining your list. And then you stick with that purpose, right?
You seem to have your finger on the pulse of how to develop lists, and then, of course, the journey through those lists, and how to make sure that, one of the problems I have is, and I imagine you find this a lot with clients, is, we've developed a list over on, what's the monkey one? MailChimp.
The monkey one, yes.
20 years or something, I still forget the name. It's the monkey one, whichever. It was the other one for a while, for half that time, and then we moved over to MailChimp. But yeah, there's a lot of you pay for the list, and the bigger it grows, whether it's effective or not, you're paying for the size of it. And so doing some of the techniques that you're talking about, especially, quarterly, cleaning up that inventory and, maybe making sure you're not paying for some more than you're really utilizing, or that are opening your mail. I mean, why pay for people that are sending you? We have to go in and I think we archive some of our lists from time to time if they haven't opened the email in a while.
What's interesting, Chris, if I can just interject there,
sure,
is
please.
What I realized, like I understand a lot about the energy of the connection and the relationship with people. So if people are not interested in your work, what you do is when you archive them and not export them and then delete them from the database, is you are still got a tenuous, even thing connection with you, right? So I feel what's best for your business is to let go of that old stale energy, right? If they're not interested in what you're doing, good. Just send them on their way with love, and, invite new people in, the people who are interested, and then nurture those new people to make sure that, they're really getting value from being on your list. Because the one thing I've seen a lot of, and I'm not sure that, I think some of us are guilty of this in the past, is we just regurgitate what's already on our socials. Now, I join your list because I want unique content. I want stuff first. I want stuff that others aren't going to get access to, right? So like your tips and methods around dating, or whatever it is, whatever the subject matter is, you give your best value to people who are in that inner circle, because as you are generous towards those people, they'll be generous in return by putting their wallet where it fits on the desk, ready to buy your product.
Now, I see on the website there's several different offerings you have. You have a strategic, I've got a camera here in my way, strategic mentorship. You've got the quiz alchemy, done for you, opt-in funnels, and growing your list. Why don't we talk about funnels for a little bit? What do you do there for clients?
Yeah, so what I realized is that a lot of people, when they first start out in business, they certainly didn't start their business to become a technical guru. Mm-hmm. And in online business, it does require a lot of moving parts, especially with the technology. Mm-hmm. And they get the ideas, they ready to put all the copy and the content together, and then they get to the technology. Now, yes, you can hire someone at low cost to build the funnel for you, but that is not a strategic way to do it, because the thing is that that's going to stand the test of time. So your podcast's been around for 16 years. You've got methods and processes that are strategic that you use to keep that show the way that it is. Mm-hmm. So it is with building opt-ins and funnels. There's ways to build the opt-in and funnel that ensures that you move somebody from one step into the other, and that they willingly go to that next step, right? So we don't coerce people. We invite them into that next step and keep them moving forward in the funnel. But a lot of people get tripped up because they just don't know the technology or the strategy. And so what I do is understand what it is you're trying to create, give you all the checklists to go away, build all these things, and then we do it for you. So it sort of takes the pain out of being in an online business.
There's a bit of pain. I mean, it's hard for people to navigate all this stuff. I mean, and then what you're doing is monitoring it, fine tuning it, assessing it, and all this stuff. I mean, you can't, we've had mailing lists for a long time, and there's a lot of just, I don't know if redundancy is the right word, but there's a lot of, fall off, especially over as long as we've been around. And, as people could open the emails and they wander off for whatever reason, sometimes Google start sending everything to spam, maybe. Seen that movie. And there's probably different ways people need to set that up. Do you help people with, like we do some sort of anti-spam, there's some sort of secure setup where we prove,
yes,
I think it's through Google Workspace or something, and we, there's some sort of process. I forget the terminology. We set it up years ago.
Yes. So in last October, a number of large email providers like Google and others wanted to limit the amount of spam that was being sent off their platforms. And so they introduced a lot of rigorous things that needed to be done. And it caught a lot of people short because they didn't understand the underlying technology. So what we did at that time was offer a service to get that. But I always check when I work with anybody, I always check a couple of things. One is your email going to get delivered into the email box 9 times out of 10? Because sometimes it could be your subject line or something that triggers a spam flag. We teach people, okay, these are the spam triggers. You're not going to use those as subject lines. Like the word money. Money is one of the biggest triggers for spam filters, right? So you've got to talk about wealth instead of money. Silly, really? But yeah, so those kind of things. So getting the underlying technology is important to get that right. But the other thing is knowing how to use the subject line and pre-header so that it does get into somebody's mailbox and gets their attention. So on your smartphone, you'll see, if you open up your email, you see the top 2 lines. Use that space really well, and it'll help people go, oh, I'm curious about that. So I would say don't use clickbait stuff, but focus on making someone curious enough to actually open that email. And then also in the funnels, what we look at is the timing. So the frequency of your opt-in funnel is important, because if you keep bombarding with people with emails every day, they're just going to get, they're going to say, I've had enough, I'm out. So your timing of your emails, the communication frequency is important. And also just in each of the emails, they don't have to be war and peace. They need to, though, hit a sweet spot. What is the purpose of this email? What is that person going to get? A quick win or an idea to do something differently? and move them through that. So there's a few things, that you can see that beyond the technology, there's a lot of strategy required to get all those emails into somebody's inbox.
Yeah. What do you think of the people? There's people that they send a massive amount of emails, and sometimes they're like, I don't know how you explain them, but sometimes they're like kind of guilt. You haven't clicked on our links. We kind of feel like we miss you, or it's kind of clickbaity, but not really. But I don't know how to explain what those types of emails are, and they clearly come from someone who programs this stuff and sends it out to clients, and it's here, use these titles. It's kind of like guilt trip sort of stuff where it's, do you still like us? Open our emails, that sort of thing. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen people do that?
No. Like what I would normally do, so for example, I said I've got a quarterly process, and I've actually got a high-performing email list product that I use to teach everybody that quickly, because I had to keep repeating myself. So I just made a product that people could get. And the first thing is to understand if they're still interested. And so I use fun and personalization. So, for example, one of my emails would be like, this is a bit awkward. My system's telling me that you haven't opened the emails. Now, this could be because your email setup is different. But, it's like telling the birds and bees to your kids, so you do a bit of storytelling that's light, that's fun, but not the guilting. Like, I mean, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the person getting that information. And for those people who are learning from other marketers, I'd say, please don't disengage your brain and your own thought process, because if you wouldn't like to receive it, please don't send that stuff out. The cold emails in your LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found out that there's a lot of new tools with AI that actually scrape your LinkedIn contacts and then just start spamming them with these different emails. And people think they're appropriate. And I said, what is appropriate? If a door-to-door salesman came to your door and said, I'm selling the Encyclopedia Britannica, would you like to buy? You'd probably just close the door and move on.
Yeah.
So don't think that those tactics work. They do not work. And I can remember somebody saying, oh, but I've got a few clients from it. I said, you could have got a lot more clients if you actually just offered them something of value from your posts, and they see it and they go, oh, this person gets me, like I'm interested in what they've got. But don't come and hang out in my DMs. Sorry, I'm not. I don't want that.
That stuff drives me nuts. And the other thing is spam emails. So they'll get my email off of LinkedIn, and it's there, but they'll get my email off LinkedIn, and they'll be like, hey, we sent you a message on LinkedIn, you didn't reply. And so now you're in my mailbox. Maybe there's a reason I didn't reply, And I used to be nice to marketers, and now I burn them. And so if they send me through LinkedIn, they charge you an in-mail fee, I think it is.
Correct.
And so if you don't reply and you just say ignore, my understanding is they don't charge the people for the in-mail. It's only if you respond or something. So I always make sure I respond. Oh, I'm an ass. I just finally was like, you know what? I'm tired of being nice. I'm tired of the abuse. I have, I think, 60,000 followers on LinkedIn, so I just get slammed. And the biggest FU that you can point at me is to take my email off of something, and I'm not responding on LinkedIn, and then you're like sending it to my email, and then they'll send 3 or 4 emails after that. And they're like,
it's such an invasion of privacy. Honestly, it's such an invasion of privacy, and why people think it's acceptable. That's why I say, when I started in the online space, I did a couple of marketing courses because I thought I might have some gaps in my own knowledge in the online space. And I just actually, my gut turned at some of the tactics, right? Because when I first started an online business, people were buying lists, and I thought, there's got to be a different way. There has to be a different way, because those people never invited me into their space.
Yeah.
And so why should I just go barging in like a bull in a china shop into their personal space, whether it's through DMs, through their email, or like the bots are going wild on Facebook with tagging you in messages and stuff like that. And it's constant vigilance. And I'm going, this is not, there's nothing ethical about it. So if you're an ethical business owner, why would you do it? Yeah, I'm glad I found a fellow person who's not interested in that kind of style of marketing.
Yeah, I hate it. I wish I could find. I usually block and the spam people, but there's like I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to see if I have anybody doing it, but I usually kick them pretty hard. But there's like these guilt trip sort of heart tugging things like, we love you, we miss you, we haven't heard from you. It's kind of weird. You're like, dude, like I'm busy. And I guess I see it all really when it comes down to it. But usually I find
but there's another way, right?
Yeah,
there's another way. I'm talking to I feel that consent-driven marketing for the future is where all of us as business owners need to move towards. Do you really think that pissing people off right at the beginning is going to make them customers?
I don't know.
I really don't
I wonder
think
if there's
so.
like what's that thing called when you kidnap somebody and then they fall in love with you? It was the
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome. It's almost kind of like some sort of narcissistic Stockholm Syndrome they're playing with you. Like, you haven't opened our email. Do you still love us or do you hate us? And you're like, I don't know you well enough to hate you. I mean, that's kind of strong. I'll click your link. Okay, sucker.
No, I think all of us like autonomy, like we want to make our own choices. So more so in marketing, right? That's why I say, even if you've got a product and somebody buys your product, that's implicit consent. It's not explicit. Explicit consent is where you say, would you like to sign up for our newsletter? Check this box, right? That's explicit consent. And it's the same with, opt-ins, as we mentioned, opt-in funnels. You take somebody to a landing page, you tell them why it's a really good reason to download this avoid predators, checklist, and you take them on that journey. And then I think the other thing that the one side is, how do you get the person on your list that's right for your business and, for the long term? You want to build a trusting and lasting relationship with those people. So what you want to do is nurture that list, right? Don't think once they're on your list, it's set and forget. I'm getting emails from you every time you're releasing a new podcast, right? So I know you're sort of training me really nicely to say, hey, Chris is going to only email you when he's got value to share.
Yeah.
Although, if you weren't podcasting regularly, you would still want some sort of frequency.
Yeah.
Some people say weekly. I feel that's a bit much with our busy lives at the moment. I'm kind of for choose what works for you. How can you be consistent? If it's you don't say fortnightly. If it's every 2 weeks or if it's once a month, but do it and add really value-driven content, right? Make each email count, right? So I know when I get yours and I get the summary, I go, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to go and listen to that piece because it's about marketing. Or I'm going to, so I think that's where for us, it's the one part starting the list, not being, held ransom by the social media. And then it's actually growing and nurturing that list so that people really get to know you. You get to understand. I always put invites for people to hit reply, and tell me what's going on with that particular thing, because you start building up rapport with people, even if they haven't bought from you yet.
Maybe, let me ask you this. What about asking questions? Not the guilt trip, narcissistic, weirdo questions that's, I wish I could find it, but I know that somebody makes these and they're like a boilerplate question, guilt trip emails that go out, and I'm just like, what the fuck? What about asking questions in I think you mentioned surveys in our conversation a few minutes ago. What about
sometimes I'll use a survey, and obviously what you don't want to do is somebody to spend hours doing it. But for example, when I launched my quiz, I asked the question, which of these titles do you think actually reflects what I've just shared with you about what I want this quiz to be able to do? And I got stacks of replies because everybody loves to share their opinion, but I'm not guilting them into doing it. I'm saying, hey, this is my quiz. This is what it's about. If you want to discover your client consent, sort of that connection style, then, this is what it's about. But this is what I'm thinking of naming it. So it's those kind of things. Or, for example, if people have been on your list for a long time, you could be asking the question of, what are you looking for? What's missing? Do you need something else from me? Is there something that I could fill a gap for you? That kind of question.
We usually send out an email that says, "What the hell do you people want already?" No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that, people. That's a joke.
Not quite.
That's not going to build rapport.
But it's sort of, it's two-way communication, and then you'll see people start to just respond to your emails, or send a reply and say, "Hey, that podcast episode was absolutely stellar. I need to hear more like that."
That's a good one. What's the best? Maybe, I could ask people, because we put out a lot of content. We put out 2 to 3 shows a weekday, which is about 10 to 15 shows a week. There's been times where we do 4. We try not to do 4 so much anymore, because I don't think I think by 4 I'm a little drained and I'm not on my point. The audience right now is like, "Yeah, he's done. You can always tell what the 4th one is." No, that's not true, folks. Sometimes I'm just hitting on all cylinders by the 3rd or 4th one. I'm kind of warmed up and in gear, and it kind of depends on the guest and the day. But maybe we should ask people, what was the best podcast you liked this week out of the 15 we sent to you?
And that's where, remember I was talking to you about segmenting the audience. So one of the ways you could do that is with a basic quiz, is to say, because you've got different subject matters. So I noticed you've got some on marketing, there was someone on mortgages and financials and those kind of things. So you could say, tick which ones apply, right? And then you'll start to see where the trends are, right? And that's where, you could go towards that, because I think people will show in whatever they're interested in. And that's what I like about some of the people whose lists I subscribe to, where they say, which of these topics would you like to hear from us on?
Right? Maybe,
so then
we could ask people what guests would you like to see that we don't have on the Chris Voss Show?
Correct. So that could be it could be a 2-part questionnaire, basically a simple questionnaire that says, out of these topic areas, which tick all the ones you love listening to, and then who would you like to hear on the show? That's going to take you 1 minute. Tick, tick, tick. Put some names down.
I got a lot of feedback on YouTube about the show too. Hey, can you shut up more? I actually shut up on that one and let the guy talk. And I did the intro. What more do you want from me?
Yeah, I like the two-way conversation.
Yeah. Although sometimes it ends up like the host jumps in too much. And I'm like, that's because the guest didn't give me anything. He was giving me like 1-word answers, so I had to fill. And sometimes you have to carry the guest because you're like, so tell us about your book. It's published. You got any more in that book there you want to share with people? It's got a cover on it. You're like, you're killing me, Holmes. Give me more. But we get nice feedback. But I like this interacting with our list. Some people, I think we might be guilty of this. We kind of just treat our list. It's over there. Hopefully it's still working. And
for example, if somebody is not on social media, right?
Yeah.
The mail list is doing its purpose so I'm getting that alert on my mail list.
Oh.
And so I'm choosing, okay, I'm going to watch that one. No, not going to watch that one. So it's a good self-selection tool.
Mm-hmm. We have Bob on Wednesday. Why do you hate Bob? You don't open didn't open Bob's link to Bob. He was talking about the sex life of insects. Evidently that wasn't popular. So we're just kind of curious. Why do you hate our, now it's a guilt trip thing. Why do you hate our show?
No. Yeah. You're not going to get a response. It's kind of just opt out. Just, that's what I think, like with all things, there's seasons for things, right? So I will consume some podcasts because I'm in a learning process for something. And then it gets to a point where I go like, think I've done enough, and I will, opt out of that. And I think that is human nature, right? So that's why I say, if people have got to the point where they don't want to open your emails anymore and they're not interested, but it could be because of the way they've got the email set up. For example, if they have Outlook on their desktop and they forward email from Gmail or something to Outlook on their desktop, it might not show as read on the original because it's still sitting in the Gmail folder, right? So that's why I always do the check-in, The system says this, but, it's a bit awkward, But are you still interested? If so, click here. If not, have a wonderful time. We'll take you off our list.
I know there's a lot of people that do that. They'll send me an update. Maybe we've been on their list for a lot of years. And they'll be like, hey, do you still want to get stuff from us? Or do you hate us? No, I'm just kidding. Don't do the guilt stuff. But, and so then you end up replying to them going, hey, put me on your new list. And it seems like they just create a whole new list and then they wash out the old list. That seems like a technique or people are using. Does that sound about right?
No, I would say, for example, in terms of what I would say, like the hygiene, the cleaning out of the list, is what you're doing is you're looking for people who haven't opened your emails between 90 and 180 days. So in other words, 3 to 6 months.
So they really tuned you out at that point if they're not.
Yeah, really. That's true. So if they've not opened any of your emails in that time, you could just do one re-engagement email, and if they don't respond, you just export the data, put that into your ads file, and then remove them from the database. And as I said, I feel that's an energetic cutting. We're not connected anymore. Go well.
So after 90 days, they've kind of forgotten about you. You're not on an important list, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you try and recapture those and say, hey, let's be friends again? Or do you have to?
Well, I do a re-engagement email and give them a reason to stay. So if if there's something that they may have missed by not opening the emails that other people have seen a lot of value in, I'd say maybe you missed seeing this. If you're interested, click there, that sort of thing. The re-engagement process is at the beginning of the cleansing process because, as I said, it could be the way the email's set up. It just could be where they are at in their journey. But if they don't respond at all, that's your answer, right?
Yeah, if they don't respond at all. Sounds, how much time should, I think you do some of the services for this, but how much time should someone be, putting into their mailing list, maintenance and kind of trying to, get it to become more active? How much time do you recommend a week? Either someone like you who helps people or someone, maybe they're just doing it themselves, spend on that?
Yeah, I would say it depends obviously on your frequency, but you need to have a lot of promotions going out on your socials or your LinkedIn that actually are weekly, at least, for inviting people to your list. So that's the front end of the bus. Then you've got whether you do a regular newsletter, how often are you doing that? And then that back end is the cleaning bit, right? So you keep filling the bus from the front, inviting new people in, but you in the middle section is the people who've probably, like you said, you've been going 16 years, Chris. There could be people on your list who've been with you all the time because they're loving what you're doing. They love the variety. They love the tongue-in-cheek stuff, and they could have been there for all of those 16 years.
Oh, and hopefully they do.
And because they know you've been sending them an email all the time, there's a new podcast out, whatever, so they know you've fed the need, right? You fed the need.
That's what we do around the Chris Voss Show. We feed the need.
Yes.
That's our new motto. Feed the need. Subscribe to the Chris Voss Show today.
Yeah, because I think that's the other thing that I notice in my work is that people say, I want this, I want to do this in business, I want to grow my business. All right, but what do you actually need? What's missing that's stopping you from getting there? So it's that kind of thing, filling in the gaps that make sure. And so I think in terms of time every week, I would say probably if you're a business owner, at least 3 hours if you don't have a team. It is something that once you start growing a team, you can actually delegate. So you can come up with the ideas for all your social posts and those kind of things, or for blogs, or for podcasts, or for interviews. And obviously you're going to do the podcast yourself and those kind of things. But the background, the engine room could be done with other people, supporting you to get that done. So the time I think that you allocate depends on which stage of business you're in.
So as we go out, just been really informative, folks. If you haven't been through the whole episode, be sure to listen to it. As you go out, give us your final pitch to people to onboard with you, reach out to you, how they can handshake with you, find out, if they're fit for you, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm really passionate about consent-driven marketing because I just find that the need to connect authentically is greater than ever in the time today. So the best place to head to is to my website, bevroberts.com, and that will get you started, right? And you can reach out to me in multiple different ways. There is a messenger that you can just send me a message straight up from my website if you want to, or you can, there's areas there are free resources you can download, getting yourself organized to do that. Or if you're interested in working with me, there's a way to do that as well. Set up an appointment and we can see if we're a good fit. I'll do a business assessment with you.
So the business assessment kind of helps people, kind of know what they need work on and how you can help them and their strengths and weaknesses, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm looking sort of quite helicopter view. Okay, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the gap? Here's my 3 suggestions of how you fill that gap. Can I support you to do that? Are you interested in working with me?
All right. It's been wonderful and very insightful to you've guilt tripped me into thinking about my list more.
Good, because list growth is business growth.
And it is too. It's the one thing you can control. I think I've seen data and studies that say that, the best results come from your list rather than, posting on Twitter.
In terms of conversion for sales is double from your list than it is from social media.
Listen to that. And they even got accent with a beep there. So that's how important it is. So, anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show, Bev. We really appreciate it.
So appreciate the opportunity. I've had a blast.
Yes, wonderful discussion as well. And let's see, Chris Nielsen from LinkedIn. It just might be the right time. Follow-up is everything. Thanks for that. I think he put that at the bottom of the half, so I'm not sure who he's referring to, but thanks for the comment. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Order up Bev's book, wherever fine books are sold, Hope in a Dark Tunnel, Your Roadmap to Well-Being When Navigating Chronic Illness, and check out our services and all that good stuff. Make sure you maintain your list. Don't forget about that thing. You're paying for it every month, so if we did that for a lot of years. We just let it pile up. We're just like, hey, what is that thing doing over there? Because the money just keeps going up the bigger it grows.
Yes.
Are we?
Yes.
Should we be doing something with that? I don't know. So anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the tickety-tockety, and all those crazy places in the net. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out, Bev.